what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Incredible Events by Incredivent. And I am in a guest studio right now, just shooting from my mobile unit. And I'll tell you, it has been absolute madness the last month. So, last podcast I do them in like bundles, right? So I don't sit down once a week and do a podcast. But what's happened in the last month is it can only be described, I would say, as a teachable moment for one, a lesson in never letting your guard down for another. And in my case, the lesson has been never stop evolving. So, what I'd like to talk about in these next three podcasts are those three things. And I'm going to start with the perfect event. So I know there are quite a few people out there that think this is an attainable goal. And oddly enough, the people that believe that the perfect event exists are generally the people that are just starting out. Because here's the thing, when you run an event and when you start out in event coordination and event planning, you really don't know what you don't know. And what you don't know is that nothing is perfect in events, especially live events. So I'm going to talk about that for a second. Live events are like a business all in themselves. So if you imagine, like in TV, what they do is a season of a TV show is the business. Whereas in events, you have to look at a live event like it's its own business. And if you're doing a big event, you could be employing hundreds, if not thousands of people to run this event, which is basically like running a city. And then you've got all these jobs, you got all this project management, you have all the operations management, the promotions management, the marketing management, the advertising management, the reporting management, the financial management, the coordination management, the talent management, the catering management, the list goes on and on. So here's the thing. If you're expecting perfection, you are going to set yourself up for failure, because the second that you start adding in multiple layers or departments into anything, you are introducing a lot of human beings, which means you're introducing more margin for error, more possibility for error. And in the live event space, what's happening a lot of times is multiple teams are coming together. A team that worked for however long it took to plan the event, promote the event, and present the event, to a team in charge of the venue, to a team in charge of, let's say, lead scraping or capturing or advertising campaigns. And then you've got a team that's kind of in charge of the talent or the stage show, we'll call it. That could be one and the same. And then you've got the team that's involved with kind of like the overall vision. So usually the person putting on the event and their closest allies. That is an impossible situation to have perfection be a part of, because you've got all these multiple teams coming together, and generally it's for the first time or it's one of few times. And the same teams don't work together again, usually. I mean, it can happen for sure, but think about businesses, right? So your average business will, hire and fire, change direction, pivot due to, unknown factors, create new products, create new services, create new processes, which is a big one. And the personalities can go in different directions. So imagine all that in each team, and then each team coming together and being perfect. And that's why I say the perfect live event does not exist. Now, you can have a great live event, 100%, but you can never have a perfect live event. Even if it's a small thing, it's still going to bug you, right? So I remember I did a live event. It was a Valentine's Day event, and there were, I think, about 2,500 people attending. So, a modestly sized event. And I had everything planned down to the letter. And then, like 30 minutes before door, my VIP coordinator became ill in her hotel room. We were in a different town, we were in a different city, so we traveled for this, which means working with a lot of people we've never worked with before. And so she fell ill. I had to take somebody else from my team who has never done that job before and put them into that job. Can you imagine how VIP went that night? Yeah, not good. Um, but the thing is that it went okay. Like we got through it. Now, did I have to lend my hand a bit more than I usually would? 100%. Did the venue have to did they have a lot more stressors because now their VIP line is getting longer and longer and longer than they ever expected it to get? 100%. But it was a great event. People had a good time. You know, people don't remember necessarily off the top of their head whether VIP was a little slow or whether bottle service took a while to get to you or whether the sound went out once or the lighting didn't work out properly for the first half of the event or whatever. As long as the event is good, that's what matters. So I'll give you a little story that happened in August. So we worked with a first time um, not really an event planner, but I guess this team was stepping into event planning for the first time. They'd never been involved in a large event, and what they were trying to do was pretty much the largest event you can possibly do. And there was a tech snafu, something that could not be controlled. Nobody had any idea it was going to happen. It just happened. It was dealt with as quickly and as prudently as possible. And at the end of the day, um, the event went well in terms of had they never brought up that there was a problem, had they just gone with the event was great, here's the replay of the event, here's all the records we smashed, here's all the sales we made, here's how awesome you guys were, here's the value you got, that would have been enough. Nobody would have known except for the handful of people, the few thousand people that hit the problem. But the few thousand people that hit the problem, they were catered to as well. So they might have been annoyed in the moment that it was taking a while to be able to get into the event. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they still got into the event. They still got the value. They still were able to squeeze enough juice out of the lemon to be able to make themselves a lovely, lovely lemonade. But they did the classic first time or early event planner mistake, and that is they told the world that they had a problem. And I don't think the audience cared too much about the problem because honestly, I scraped their social networking and I couldn't find much of anything in terms of complaints about it. And anybody that did really complain about it really was just like, oh, it was a bummer. I remember doing this back in the day too. I had this really large event planned. I had pre-sold all the tickets. It was 8,000 people, I want to say, and the venue canceled on me at the last minute. They did it because they were concerned about security, because they didn't expect us to sell that many tickets. So put that in perspective, right? You book a venue for 8,000 people, you actually sell 8,000 tickets, and they shut you down because they're concerned because they weren't capable of handling that kind of a crowd. And what did I do? This is very early on in my career. I went out and made a video statement, very solemn video statement. We will win. This issue, it will not be the death of us. We will be together and we will win the day. Um, I shouldn't have done that. And I look now and I look at the team that did this event who went out and did basically the same thing. They shouldn't have done that either. But I think it's kind of almost like a rite of passage where you start to learn as you plan more events, there's always something that's going to go wrong. So, what I'm trying to say to everybody out there who is thinking about getting into event planning, we have a lot of people that come on to Incredivent and they're like, they have a lot of questions. They're not too sure what they're doing. This is their first event. And my best advice to you would be plan for whatever you can plan for, but understand that you can't plan for everything. There will be something that will come up that will knock you off your game. There will be something that will ultimately make you think that your event sucked. But As long as the event is good, you don't have to make a big deal out of it. And that's really the key to event planning, because when everything that can possibly go wrong does, as long as you look out on that audience and they're having a good time, then you won. That's it. That's a good event. And that message can get lost in event planning when you're trying to plan something, you're trying to plan for perfection. So, at the end of the day, no matter what, no matter who, no matter how, no matter why, if your crowd loves it, all the problems are simply lessons. And that is where the big event debrief comes in. Okay. So if you're an event planner and you're not doing an event debrief, you are failing as a leader. You're failing your team. You're failing yourself. And you need to correct this step right now. Without an event debrief, you will never proceed to be more successful in event planning. So an event debrief is generally where you take the key players in an event and they talk to their teams, let's say for a week before the debrief, find out all the issues, everything that went right, everything that went wrong, everything that was in question, anything that seemed unclear at the time. And they bring it to that leader. That leader comes to debrief, and the leaders all talk about those things. And there will be problems. There will always be problems. But the thing about that is, it's okay. Problems are actually a good thing with events, because as long as it didn't ruin the customer experience, like Fire Festival or like a concert that the artist just never ends up coming out to and everybody leaves disappointed, as long as things like that don't happen, um, the problems are there to teach you to refine, and you will always be refining. The chance of you having an event without an issue, very, very slim. I mean, I've done over 1,000 events in my day, and I would say every single one of them had an issue. Just the way it is. I had foam parties that were amazing, and then I bring that same foam gun to the next party, and it just won't push the foam like it should. I've worked with DJs who have absolutely crushed it with crowds, and then for whatever reason, just can't pull it off that night. I've worked with venues over and over again and come into problems every single time that weren't problems with the previous or the next events. I've worked with, staff that have had a good grip on their job, and then at the next event, they completely fall apart. What I'm trying to say is that as an event planner with 1,000 events plus under my belt, I have always found that there are problems. And the key to this all is to understanding that there will be problems and to deal with the problems in the moment as best you can to make sure that the audience has as great of an experience as possible, and then addressing everything else afterwards. So the steps to a successful event are: do not strive for perfection, fix what you can in the moment, make sure the audience is having a great experience, and have an event debrief where you and your core team can just say, here's what went wrong. And my last point on this is, when you have an event debrief, don't get mad. I've been in a lot of event debriefs where the main event planner is like, oh, you people are idiots. How could you not have thought of that? Look, there are thousands, if not millions of factors that go into every single event that you're going to do. Sometimes things fall through the cracks. It's just the way it is. I would love it if it was a perfect world and it didn't happen, but it happens all the time. Sometimes something gets checked off on the pre-event checklist that didn't actually get done, or it breaks after it's done and nobody notices. Sometimes servers go down, sometimes microphones don't work, sometimes lighting rigs don't work, sometimes the talent are more difficult than you were expecting. There's about a million reasons why an event wouldn't go well. But nobody on your team is trying to ruin your event for you. Nobody on the blended teams from all the other teams are trying to ruin the event for you. Everybody wants to have a great event. Everybody wants to have a perfect event, but the perfect event does not exist. So when you're in your debrief, no matter what, no matter who, no matter why, no matter what, make sure that you're calm. Because the point of the debrief is not to cuss out your people. The point of the debrief is to make sure that those things don't happen again as best to your ability. It's to learn from them. It's for everybody to get their say, to feel comfortable with being able to have their say. So that's it. I'm just telling you guys, if you're getting into this right now, or if you're a person that beats yourself up because you're a perfectionist, maybe this is not for you if you can't pull off an event without being perfect, because it'll never happen. It just won't. I don't know a single event planner that's gone through their event planning career without getting some gray hairs every single show. So this is Incredible Events. I am so happy you guys tuned in. I hope that this has been of value to you. If it has, please give a subscribe, a like, a comment, a share, however you want to show your love. Review us if you can. And if you're an event planner and you have questions that you think we might have answers to, I would love for you to submit them to us. You can do that on our socials. You can do that through email. We're easy to find. Incredible Events Podcast, incredivent.com. And I will talk to you on another episode. This next episode, we'll be answering your questions in a top 5 questions of the month coming from August. Cannot wait. Talk to you guys soon. Later.